let's move on to Rivian. So we
Let's
have a
do it.
couple of things to talk about with Rivian. We have
Yes.
the obviously tomorrow, not today.
Yes.
Tomorrow is Rivian Day.
Tomorrow
So
is the official
is the
R2
official,
pricing,
yes,
but that's not going to stop us from speculating today.
yes.
And we got some we got some uh, insider information potentially because Ars Technica, one of the publications that presumably had access to Rivian's pricing information, accidentally published and then unpublished an article, which may or may not be accurate. We don't know. But what we do know is this is the pricing information that they released. So this is uh, I'm labeling it speculation of R2 pricing because we don't know if this is for sure, but it appears, and I assume you can see my screen, Dustin, right?
Yes.
Um, we expect the launch edition, which this is sort of like been relatively well known that it's going to have over 300 miles of range. Um, it appears that they kind of confirmed that it's going to have 330 miles of range, 3.6 seconds, 0 to 60, which we kind of knew. This is the part we did not know. 57,990. I had speculated that this could go all the way up to 65,000 and they would still sell it. I was hoping that they would be at just shy of 60. Previously, I had speculated that it would be probably come in at 59,990, and is coming in potentially $2,000 even below that. So 57,990 is an incredible price for that launch edition configuration. It's on par with the performance edition of the Model Y, same price, not $5,000 more, despite delivering everything in a potentially much better package, off-road capabilities, and yeah. So, what are your thoughts on this?
I think it's
If this
very
turns out to be the
exciting.
case.
Right. It's very exciting if it turns out to be the case. I look, all we have to do is wait for tomorrow. So I'm just holding my breath until then and we'll see.
Yeah.
I also like, by the way, because I don't think you called this out, that the actual starting price is going to be under that 45K mark
The
because,
44,990, but they
right,
have
which,
now said, well, again, according to this article, that would be late 2027. So we're almost 2 years away from that. Um,
right.
yeah,
But what I like about that is one, you have other car companies say, this is the starting price, and then by the time the car actually hits the road, the price is much higher than that.
right.
So like that was in play as a possibility. And then the other uh, angle of this, which I never bought, was I don't know if you saw on Twitter, some people were getting a little frazzled because they removed the 45K starting price on their website
Yes.
this week because they
Yes.
started promoting the event. People were like,
Right.
"Oh, is it not going to start at 45K?" And I was just like, as a designer, it's just sometimes you want to highlight different information,
Right.
and that's all that was, at least from my
Yeah, I
perspective.
didn't read anything into that for
Yeah.
sure. But one thing I would say is that um, well, I mean, okay, so lots of things here. But by the way, I've also updated the long range and the all-wheel drive dual motor 330-mile range with a lower 53K or 54K starting price. One thing I would say is that each one of these configurations, it's the starting price for that configuration. So if you change the tires or the interior color or maybe even the exterior color, those type of things are still going to be on top of this price or
Right.
the starting price for that configuration. So just do expect that if you go even with the launch edition, but change the color from whatever default color it comes with at the 58K price, you might have to pay an extra 2,000, or you might have to pay an extra uh, uh, amount of money for changing the interior color or the wheels on these things. So you might still end up with a $65,000 configuration despite the 58,000 starting price, but just something to keep in mind. Um, the other thing I would say is that I suspect that the demand for the R2 is high enough to where they will be able to sell the launch edition for at least the next 6 months, maybe much longer, just because manufacturing capacity is also relatively small over the next 6 months as they expand. So I don't know. I think they could, if I was to speculate, I think they could sell 100,000 of the launch editions before they need to introduce the other editions. And that might put them well into 2027 before um, they would need to introduce other editions. But again, I'm just going off of pure speculation. I don't know.
And another piece of news that came out today is Rivian is going to stop producing their cheapest trims for the R1. Do
Right.
you think that's going to push more consumers towards the R2, or do you think it's going to push consumers kind of up towards higher trims of the R1?
Well, one of the things that I like about that is that there should be a distinction between the R1 and the R2. So I think that price, or just eliminating the entry level versions of the R1 makes sense because it'll help with their margins. It will create a complete distinction between the two of them. And I think what I'd like to see from them long term is to make the R1 the flagship, just make it better, make it more luxurious, charge more for it since you have the R2 anyway at the lower starting price, and just make the R1 the what is that vehicle, the Range Rover the Range Rover replacement of the Rivian line. So I think that's a great move. I think that's a great move, irrespective of what it does. If it pushes the sort of lower end R1 purchasers to R2 and makes the higher end R1 purchasers like, okay, I like the fact that nobody else can easily get into this because the price point is higher, right? That's the reason people buy a Range Rover or a Porsche or whatever, right? Is because they want a car that not everyone can afford. So um, part of it has to do with that. So I think it's a good move on their part.
Yeah, and I like that in theory, it's going to also simplify manufacturing of the R1, just having less different SKUs.
Less SKUs, absolutely.